What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Got a special client interview today with my boy Jordan Kennedy. Jordan is a strength guy. He's had a lot of success in my program. Super awesome guy. I'll spare the introduction. I'll let him take care of that. But he's been super awesome to work with. And Jordan, I just want to say thank you for hopping on and your hard work and your participation, everything like that. So I'll let you introduce yourself, and then we'll jump right into it.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it for sure. Yeah, like you said, like I'm a strength coach mainly for baseball players is what I do. Really like a big bottleneck for a lot of these players is how strong and how explosive they are. So that's really what I'm trying to do. Also, I just graduated from physical therapy school, so kind of like the injury risk reduction side of things is really important for these guys too. So that's really what I do for my players is just help them get stronger, help them get more explosive, and then help reduce injury risk are the main things. And then making sure that those things are applying to the field is really what my goal is as a coach and kind of my little niche that I've settled into there. But yeah.
Sweet, sweet, dude. No, and when we first started working together, you obviously like were pretty good with the training side, and you're in PT school. So I just want to say you're a beast for having the success that you had while being in PT school, and like still just ripping it. So I appreciate you. If you want to maybe talk a little bit more about like, your situation when we first started working together, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, man, for sure. So before I got in touch with Nick, I'd been doing it for about a year or so. And somehow I had like just learned different things on the internet, not really like bought into a program to teach me how to do things or anything. And I was able to grow my Instagram following a good amount. I was maybe around 40 or 50K whenever I first started talking to Nick. But really the issue was I didn't know how to monetize that following very well. I was doing like a $49 a month program, and some guys that were like kind of like me back whenever I was in college would work hard on it and be consistent and get a lot of results. But then the vast majority of these guys weren't doing it enough. They didn't have the accountability that they needed, and they just weren't getting better. So essentially just wasting their money. And I didn't really like that. And also on the like financial side of things for me, like I was working really hard and I was maybe ripping 4 or 5K a month. And I kind of thought what I was providing was a lot more valuable than that. So I was like, how can I do a high ticket thing? And that's whenever I ran into Nick. And he mentioned that I was in PT school, which like time that I had available wasn't very much. And I know that's like something that'll keep a lot of people from doing something like Nick's program is like, oh, I don't have the time for it, yada, yada, yada. But really having a structured system that you can stick to each day and having somebody to bounce ideas off of to help you make those decisions is going to save a lot of time for you. So it saved a lot of time for me. I remember like I was working my clinical for 40 hours a week in the spring. So it's like all day I was working, maybe 3 to 4 hours I was working on my business. And that was less time than I was working on my business previously. And I was able to grow it up to, I did 16K a month last month. And then I did like 10 the month before. So in less time, I was able to grow it more. And that's really like what having a set program and something to stick to will help you with for sure. And that's kind of what Nick's done for me here. It's helped a ton having somebody to bounce ideas off of. And also another thing I really appreciate is like being able to like connect with him like as a baseball guy because there's a lot of people who don't understand like what your athletes are like or what you're like. So that's a huge advantage too of somebody who's kind of been there and done that like on the baseball side of things. But a little bit long-winded there, but that's kind of the full rundown on where I was before and kind of where I'm at right now with Nick's program and everything like that for sure.
Yeah, dude. No, I appreciate that. I think long-winded is good, dude.
Yeah,
But
for sure.
yeah, I think it's cool that you've been able to like have the success that you've had, just because like yeah, like a lot of people will be like, oh, I'm in, blah blah blah. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. I'm working 15 hours a week at this job. I have no time. But you decided that you were going to make it work. You're working 40 hours PT school a week. So I just want to say, you know, thank you for breaking all the beliefs of everybody watching this right now who says they don't have time, because you always have more time. You just have to change your priorities. But I guess like maybe talk a little bit more about, our relationship and how it's kind of developed and um, what you feel like was the best thing that you've gotten out of like working together.
Yeah, man, for sure. I would say like just having somebody who's been there and done that before is really important. And somebody who understands where you're at too is important as well. It's like Nick played baseball, whoever's like trying to become a coach online and stuff like that, played a sport, like can relate to Nick a lot. And so that's something that's been helpful for me, especially is understanding like where my athletes were previously and kind of that mindset of like wanting to help people too and wanting to help your guys have a better baseball career than they would have otherwise is another big aspect of I think what has been so helpful working with the Nick here. Something that's helped me out a lot. But yeah, definitely like having that commonality with baseball, especially, is super helpful for sure. And then like he clearly wants you to succeed. It's not like a situation of like, oh, the strike payment goes through and then don't hear from Nick for like 2 months or something because that's not how it is. He's kind of like there have been times where I've gotten busy with school or working on this stuff, and he's made it a point to like make sure that things are still going smoothly and everything like that. So that's been super helpful is having that accountability as well because I know if I start slacking, like he's gonna be there to kind of get on my ass a little bit and make sure that I'm doing things well, you know?
Yeah, you got to, dude. At the end of the
Yeah.
day, like, and this as a coach, right? At the end of the day, like, all that really matters is like actually getting people results, And I'm willing to do whatever it takes in order to get people results. Sometimes it's holding them accountable, sometimes it's encouraging them, just like a coach, right? But um, I guess like, what would you say to somebody who's maybe watching this, who's, a little bit on the fence, unsure if, this program is worth it or, if it's going to work for them, or I don't know, like people ask me, people have a million different objections, right? But what would you say to that person who's interested, but is honestly afraid to pull the trigger?
Yeah, man, definitely. I think most guys are like, oh, I've never done this before, and it's a big financial investment kind of thing is probably the biggest thing for people. And just speaking from experience, I think I maybe tripled my investment like in the first month. So definitely paid off in that sense. If I could go back in time to last year, whenever I was first like starting out my Instagram and everything like that, the stuff that Nick has in there for like how to make a video that is going to get guys interested in your stuff or just help guys in general, very helpful. Like I had a bunch of templates and scripts that I would do previously, switched and adjusted a little bit to Nick's stuff, and it's been more helpful for me. Like people hitting me up a lot more, people saying like, "Oh, this was so helpful" in the comments, like, "Thank you so much for posting this, bro." Like that stuff has increased. So like even if you're just starting out and you didn't have a following like I was able to, um, doing his stuff will kind of help you build that following and like just get those results a little bit quicker for sure than I was able to. So that's the main thing I'd say. I'd say like financial side of thing, like you'll get your money back and more so eventually. And then starting out, like if you're kind of in that like what do I do range, having that guidance is going to be huge for you. Because you might just spin your tires for a few months. Because I know that was me until I figured some things out. So those are the things I would say for sure. Like guidance is huge, and that's what you get with Nick for sure. Like he's helped me out a ton. Like different decisions I made, like oh, how do I approach this? Like how long should my program be? Nick has a good answer for me. Like what would be like a fair price for my players that they'll get good results and it's still doable for them. And then like you help me a lot with that as well. So that's everything I'd say on that side of things for sure. Like having that guidance and then somebody to bounce some questions off of as well is really important, especially when you're just starting out for sure.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And I think, what I like to tell people is like, look, you're gonna pay for my program eventually. You're either gonna pay for it with your time or with your money. And I'm here to help people collapse time, right? Because at the end of the day, like if you do it for long enough, you can figure it out on your own. You really can. If you do it for long enough. But how long have you been building an audience on social media? How long have you been going at it? Like how long, like how many hours had you put in? and then you join my program and boom, like everything blows up in a really short amount of time, right?
Yeah.
So I guess like what would you say is, maybe some advice for somebody out there who is like just starting out or watching this video, not sure if they should join my program, like if they should try it on their own, like what advice would you have for those people?
I'd say like just keep it simple. Like there's so many things that you could be doing, but really in my case, like what do I need to do to help more guys out and get more guys in my program? It's I need to post more content. I need to DM more of my followers and like respond to inbound DMs more so and then get them on calls and talk about their specific situation. Like those are the three main things that are going to get players in the door where I can help them succeed and also grow my business. So it's like stick to those, stick to the simple things. If you get caught up in all of this complex stuff, like, oh, I need to launch an app of my own, or I need to do this or do that, like there's really no need to complicate things. And I think that's another thing that like the program does a good job of is it kind of focuses you a little bit because you could be making content about 100 different things and a bunch of those aren't going to help you uh, aren't going to help players and they're not going to help you get more players in your program. So just keeping it simple is going to help a ton. But yeah, like especially just starting out, like that's what I would tell myself for sure. Like getting sidetracked with new ideas that you're not going to be able to execute on is a waste of your time. So don't do that. Keep it simple. Figure out what works and then get better at what works. So like that DMs are going to like get you more baseball players in your program, so get better at doing those. And then that content is going to help, so work hard on your content and get better at that. So that's what I would say for sure. And some advice that I would give myself in the same position as like just starting out and everything like that for sure.
Definitely. Definitely. I think you've done a really good job of just literally taking what I say and doing it. Like you're not trying to get fancy with it. You're not trying to like, iterate the system or anything like that. Like you recognize that like there is a way to do things, and the more that you can copy the system exactly, the better everything's gonna be. So I guess like on the content side of things, like there are a lot of people just starting out on content and not 100% sure. Like everyone has this belief that like, oh, nobody's going to listen to me. Everybody thinks that, that's why nobody posts content, right? That's why nobody wants to post content because they tell themselves nobody's going to listen to me. Why would anybody listen to me? And it's just a way for them to protect themselves because your brain is programmed for survival, not to thrive, right? But
Exactly.
what would you say to those people, right? Because you've been able to grow like a good sized following, and like you have no problem speaking to the camera. Like you're not some like unicorn type of guy. You're a pretty like normal dude, who just works fucking hard.
Yeah, I
Like
appreciate that. Yeah, for sure. I would say you can always help who you used to be. Like what would be something that I could tell myself whenever I was a junior in high school that would benefit me as a player? Like you can always help that guy and you just really gotta go for it. No matter what you do whenever you first start out, like people are gonna say stuff no matter what. And you can either ignore that and go after what you really want, or you can like continue grinding for not what you're worth, continue not helping your players as much as you ought to be. If you can structure it in terms of something that whenever you were a junior in high school or early on in college or whoever you're trying to help, if you can structure it to something that will help those guys, then that will help you. If you start going into like talking about yourself and like they just really don't care. Like if you're talking about yourself, like, oh, I'm such and such, they'll click away from the video immediately. But if you can like word exactly how they're feeling and like express that to them, that's where the people will pay attention. And if you can solve their problems through your content, then that's where they'll pay attention to. So that's really what you ought to do. Like if you're uncomfortable talking to the camera, it's like you got to do a service to the people that were in the same position that you used to be, like whenever you were a junior in high school, and try to help them out. It's not necessarily about you, it's about serving these other people and helping them. And that's really where you're going to find more success. The people who are like super cringy, like posting content and like, they're like, oh, here's a day in my life or whatever. It's like most people don't care about your day in your life unless you're like a really pretty girl, like nobody's going to care about those things. So just try to phrase things in terms of what will help you whenever you were younger is what I would say there for sure.
Yeah. No, I absolutely love that. And I think, you know, in my opinion, if you had like any sort of success in a sport or in life and you're not educating other people about it publicly, then you are doing the world a disservice. It's actually selfish for you to not post content because you are trapping that information in your brain and it will die with you, or it will only go to people who are immediately around you instead of spreading it with the entire world and letting everybody learn from your experiences, right? So I think obviously we talk a lot about money and we talk a lot about like making more money and like, it's cool, right? The striped screenshots are cool, but at the end of the day, um, the way to make more money is to solve bigger problems and to have more of an impact. If you're not making the money that you want to make right now, it's because you're not solving a problem well enough, or you're not having a big enough impact to be worth that much money, right? So people, I think, always want to think about money as like a zero-sum game. Like you can only make money if all you care about is making money, which is absolutely not fucking true. But I think it's like so interesting that, you say that, like, you need to help out the younger version of you. And I think that's fucking awesome. And that's exactly why you're having so much success, dude, because you actually give a fuck. You actually care. You actually want to help people out. And that's why you made 16K last month. Not because you're like money hungry.
Yeah.
If you're money hungry, you'd be a banker.
Yeah, I agree for sure. Yeah, definitely want to help those younger guys out. And that's where like success will come, and that's where like that purpose comes in as well. So that's what the focus should be for sure. Yeah. Yeah, definitely well put there, Nick.
Thanks. I oh, I'll give you an opportunity. Like, is there anything that you want to say that people out there need to hear or that you think would be helpful? Because it's my goal to change the way sports training is done, to give access to the athletes that, needed an internet mentor, right? Or need an internet mentor like I did, because I was left to my own devices on the internet and totally fucked up a lot of shit because I didn't have anybody. So, like, what do you have to say to anybody out there, or just like some parting thoughts?
Um, I would say like just kind of on that same tangent that I was on, like if you can focus on helping out who you used to be, I think that is your ideal audience that you're looking for. Like that's exactly the type of player that you should focus on. Help out the guy that you used to be, and then make everything as simple as possible for that who that guy used to be. Because I remember whenever I was younger, I was like really dumb, and it would take a lot to convince me. So like do exactly what you think would help you whenever you were younger, and do the same things to convince who you were when you were younger, to convince them to join your stuff, because they're going to have the same thought process that you did likely. And if you can just frame it in that way, then that'll solve a lot of questions instead of like trying to guess what people want to see on social media. Just do exactly what you think you would have wanted to see back then. Do exactly what would have helped you with your program in your program. And I think that would be a great place to start. And then once they start having questions for you, that's whenever you can start getting a little bit more complicated. Like for me, people are like, oh, I can't eat enough. So that's something I got to adjust. It's like, okay, like here's how you can eat enough food. Here's what helped me. And you can just answer questions as you go. So that's what I would do. Definitely if I was starting out again, just try to help who I used to be and not be so concerned with the algorithm or what I think people want to see. That's what I would say. And that's kind of how I'd summarize it. And then obviously like things have gone super well working with Nick here. Like I'm very glad that I was able to do this program and jump into it. I'm the type of guy that like never really buys anything or like does that kind of thing. I'm pretty cheap, honestly. So whenever I was like jumping on the call with Nick and he was talking to me and he convinced me to buy it, I was like, this guy knows what he's doing because I don't buy anything. And if he's able to sell me into something, then he must be doing a good job. And kind of on that sales side of thing, he does kill it. Like a ton of times on a call, like I'll have a parent who's like in marketing or sales and they're like, dude, what you're doing is spot on right now. Like your sales and marketing strategy is excellent. Like I'm really impressed. And I take credit for it on the call, I'm not gonna lie, but literally it's just because I'm doing what Nick is telling me to do. So that's something I would say there for sure. Definitely really helpful having a game plan and filling in those gaps of your knowledge on how to sell a program because it's like you already know about baseball and getting better at baseball, right? But how do you communicate that you know what you're talking about, and how do you convince people that you know what you're talking about? So that's really the problem that Nick is solving for me, and definitely what he'll solve for a lot of guys for sure as well.
Yeah. Dude, I appreciate that so much, dude. I appreciate that so much.
Okay.
Dude, I love riffing about sales and marketing and stuff like that. So I appreciate it. But dude, thank you. Thank you for jumping on here. We'll wrap it up right here. I just want to say, like, from the bottom of my heart, dude, thank you for trusting me. Thank you for, your hard work and obviously making me fucking look good. Every single program is completely based on like the level of client that you bring in. And so, you have made it very easy for me to, be like, hey, look at Jordan. But at the end of the day, dude, you've made this happen. I've kind of just pointed you in the right direction. So I just want to say, like, you're a beast, dude. This is just the beginning. You're about to grow like crazy. I know we talked a little bit before this about like what the next steps are for you. So, um, yeah, if you are thinking about joining the program or want more information or you're ready to go, you're like, hey Nick, I want to make 16K a month while in PT school like Jordan or something similar to that, booking a call with me down below. We can jump on a call, see if you're the right fit, get you started right there. But anyway, Jordan, I appreciate you and I'll catch y'all in the next video. Peace.